Welcome to another edition of Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I will be your host on this 1-hour exploration of multidimensional perception, higher consciousness, and the vibrationary language of color, line, shape, form, texture, and movement, what others would describe as sacred geometry. I describe as this vibratory language, not even a language of light, because it also is a language that may be expressed through musical tones and the beauty of harmonics and overtones. So we're expanding our definition, doing yoga of the perception, and being certain to prepare ourselves for what it is like to interact with beings that come from a radically different time and place and might have a radically different format to their consciousness. So, for example, in order to meet a higher dimensional being or a multi-dimensional being, it's not just a question of, hi, who are you, where are you from, but it is also, when are you speaking to me from? Not just your physical location, but also, are you submerged in time? So I have just returned inside from a lovely session of sun gazing. Even though it is the time of year when it is the shortest hours, there are the shortest hours in the length of the day. I'm so lucky and blessed that I live in California, where I can still do my sun gazing and ingest light directly through the aperture of my third eye, which is a crucial part of my spirit practice and also basic energetic hygiene of the body. So that's a nice little segue into, we live in a dark time, just like they call in historically the dark ages, the time of the 1100s, the dark ages, when people didn't necessarily know about personal bodily hygiene and the connection of germ theory, which had not yet been invented, to the spread of infectious disease. And we say, they had no idea where plague comes from. They didn't know how to keep clean. We are so much more advanced. We know about hygiene and the necessity of keeping clean. Well, I'm speaking now about energetic and bodily hygiene, the idea that one's energy field must be also similarly cleansed or modified or cared for hygienically in order for it to function at its best. So in the same way that, we not only bathe, we also trim the toenails and, trim your hair. We do all these different things in order to keep the body functioning at optimum levels. We groom the body. It is also necessary to practice energetic hygiene and to groom the energetic body, your energetic body. It is made of the subtle energy layers beyond the mere physical form that you can see when you look in the mirror. So we're talking about aspects of self that are not evident to the flesh eyes, but that must be perceived with the non-physical eyes. So when I paint these paintings that are all about the non-physical energy centers, and I depict them as full of rainbow colors or rainbow light, these are not necessarily rainbows that we perceive with our physical eyes. They are to be perceived or understood with our non-physical perception. And when I was outside, so also P.S., one way that you can learn all about hygiene of your energy body and the best way to groom yourself energetically is to enroll in my upcoming class. It is the next semester beginning January, I want to say January 15th, let's say mid-January, so you have a bit of time to get going. This is a class that I have run for 2 years, so I have had actually more than 6 semesters because I've done intensive summer programs, which turned out to be just too intensive. It's a 5-month-long course that I felt could not be adequately condensed into 6 weeks of intensive study. And the challenge there is that, many people do not have the uninterrupted time span. I'm sorry, I'm just fiddling with something on my computer in order to fix this. Many people do not have the uninterrupted time span of 5 months to do a course, but you do not have to be concerned, because once you enter the course, if you have to pause or life takes over or you have other immediate pressing concerns, it is certainly possible to return in a subsequent semester. You have the quote-unquote right of return for coming back to Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Of course, if you've taken care of tuition or if you have done a non-traditional energy exchange or barter, you are welcome to come back and return and even share your new perspective with the people that are currently in the class. So there's a value to it. It's like a one-room schoolhouse where people at many different levels of development are all learning together at the same time. So coming up in January 2015, I'm actually running concurrently 2 levels: the initiatory material, which are the first 20 lessons, and they are about basic energetic hygiene, the existence of your non-physical energy body, what it's shaped like, what it's made of, how best to care for it, how to protect it. Protection, this is like the idea of the Merkaba, the light body vessel, a meditation that you can do to keep out unwanted energy and draw to you energy that you desire. Also things like sun gazing, which I was just practicing. It is too involved to tell you in a mere 1 hour's radio broadcast how to properly and safely sun gaze. And also it's necessary to first groom your energy body to be able to do it. Just like you don't just step out one day with no athletic training and just run a marathon. You need weeks or months or possibly years of preparation and conditioning your muscles and your anatomy to be able to safely, comfortably run a marathon. You know, we don't want as our goal to run a marathon and then drop dead at the end of it or have like such wear and tear on the joints that you can never run again. That's not the idea. The idea is not total self-destruction or self-sacrifice. It is a sustainable program that we can run every day. So think now about the Tarahumara Indians or the native people of northern Mexico who run 100 miles a day every day. It is normal. It is part of their culture, and they are socially, culturally, and physically conditioned to do so. I've spoken about this on Birth of a New Dimension on previous episodes, the idea of the soul migration, or a migration of one's consciousness from one's present state to another state, to another realm, another dimension, another reality, and you fly there not on physical wings, with physical feathers, but on wings of consciousness. However, it is still necessary to cultivate those wings as if you were a literal bird, like, a Canada goose flying on its mission. So it's necessary to learn how to do the Merkaba, to learn how to perform these meditations, to focus your consciousness, to create a coherent energy body. So laser light is called coherent light because all of the waves match up. Waves have both a peak or an up and a trough or a down. And coherent light means that all of the waves overlap so that all of the peaks and all of the troughs fit together. Coherent light travels further than non-coherent light. In non-coherent light, all of the light waves are traveling hither, thither, and yon, hitting into each other, going all over crazy hinky-jinky ways, and that's like regular light. Like light from a flashlight spreads out in a cone from its origin because all of that light is just going all over the place. But a laser light travels almost infinitely. If it hits dust motes, it is diluted. If it hits a surface, it might reflect or be refracted. But laser light is coherent and travels, if it unimpeded, travels infinitely. So that's the idea of a beam, and nothing is better than a beautiful beam of sunlight coming directly into my third eye. I want to talk about the sun as a portal for travel of consciousness, and the sun as a conscious entity itself. So this also goes into Birth of a New Dimension, the idea of we are going to be meeting, as if for the first time, really ancient brethren of humanity and beings whom have been interactive with humanity at many levels and at many times during the cultural history, really cultivators. If we look at the word culture and the etymological origins, it's the idea of being cultivated, that earthly human consciousness has been cultivated or encouraged to grow in certain directions. And in the same way that the invention of agricultural cultivation led to an increased civilization or social structure, and the idea behind that is that when you have predictable food sources, like when you know, hey, I'm able to grow this many acres of corn a year, and that means I can save up this many bushels of corn for the winter months, and that means I know that this many family members will be able to be sustained. That leads to a level of organization and predictability about the future that gives rise to a culturalization, complex social formats that are based on being able to plan for the future. And also it means that if you have a surplus of energy, of stored up food, that people can devote themselves to things other than food gathering or food creation. And that goes to spirituality and artistry and recreation and time in introspection. So all of those things are necessary for bringing consciousness to a higher culture, to a higher level. So it must be understood that humanity once lived at incredibly high, sophisticated levels of consciousness and was unnaturally plunged into depths of disconnection from not only source consciousness, but from the memory, like the accumulated cultural history up to that point. You know, most people, if they were cut off from their cultural history, would be at a loss. They would not know, if someone doesn't show them directly, how to build a fire, catch or create food, create shelter, create clothing. Like all of that is very difficult to invent from square one, from the prime experience. It's a lot easier when someone shows you how it's done. So humanity was plunged into the depths where it had to figure out from the very start, from the very beginning, how to make fire, how to find shelter, how to create culture. And it was during those times that there were some very targeted interventions by otherworldly beings to help raise humanity up, because humanity had really been plunged down due to a story. It's an operatic, epic backstory, which I go into in Lesson 18 of Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. So because all of this information is interwoven, it is something more than can just be easily presented in 1 hour on the radio. And also, I usually use my capacity to draw and write and gesture to speak about these higher dimensional concepts because a lot of them are well represented visually. So I utilize artwork and diagrams and drawings. In fact, if you look on the ucy.tv page, all the way at the left, there is a feed to the Birth of a New Dimension Facebook page. And if you click on those links, you will find photos of what I'm referring to. You will find pictures of paintings that I created that depict the human energy body, that depict the timelines, that depict beams of light. And it is some of the value of taking the class that you can really see what I'm talking about. When you're just listening to my voice, I try to paint a picture with my voice, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I also have videos and animations that I incorporate into talking about these higher dimensional concepts. And, words are also a very distortive package for sharing these concepts. I'm not the first person to liken words and verbalized language to a virus of the mind. In the same way that a virus needs a host, language needs a host within which to occur. And I am using language right now, which has been a distortive and oppressive structure in the past in order to set people free. I am bringing information through the, destructive virus of language. But really, things that are paintings, sculptures, animations, drawings, music, dance, and gestures, all of the communications that happen beyond verbalized language speak to one's consciousness on a deeper and less distorted level. There's more empirical truth. It hasn't been dumbed down to fit into the packages of words and the syntax that has been created. And I will tell you that humanity used to have the capacity to communicate directly, non-verbally, and with a great deal of acuity, and that was lost when humanity was plunged into the depths, and that words have been the not so good substitution that we have been forced to use ever since then in order to transmit material information both to one another and to future generations. Brief pause. So redirecting now and bringing the conversation back to the sun as both a portal, like a doorway to get from one place to another, and also as a conscious entity itself. And this topic interweaves with the topics that I was just presenting, the idea of energetic hygiene and the necessity of grooming one's energetic structure in order to use the sun as a portal for consciousness. So I have spoken about this before, the idea that there are many, many different types of cultures that live in the stars, like many different non-earthly cultures. And some of them are only slightly more advanced than human culture as it presently stands. I use the analogy of kids on the playground. On the playground, there might be kindergartners, first graders, second graders, third graders, all the way up to 12th graders. And, humanity, Earth surface culture right now is very much like kindergartners on the playground. And imagine like a bunch of second graders coming by who are slightly larger, have slightly more information, know a little bit more about the way that the world is structured, and they are bullying the kindergartners. Well, that is analogous to some of these star cultures that exist and are only slightly more advanced than human Earth culture. So they still use what I pejoratively refer to as clank-clank metal technology. Basically, this is the idea that as we are meeting beings from many different star systems, it is necessary to be selective about who you interact with, and not to be impressed or unduly impressed by the shiny trinkets of a minorly technologically advanced society. And this is a very old story of beings that visit Earth that are only slightly more advanced than the Earth's surface culture, who purport themselves to be gods or deities in some way, and who use that for a system of exploitation and control. So, of course, one would wish to safeguard oneself against that. And the information that I'm giving you will help to safeguard you. This is the understanding of how truly sophisticated star races or star cultures travel from place to place. They do not put their physical body in a physical clank-clank metal spaceship or whatever, any substance of material made spaceship, and fly across linear time and space in order to reach their destination. That is not the way that a sophisticated being would travel. There are beings that travel in that way, and the reason that they kind of have to is because they have cut themselves off from love and divinity or the source of higher consciousness that it is necessary to be connected to and to be in divine harmony with in order to use these sophisticated techniques for star travel. So basically, it's the idea that if you just want to drive around the universe willy-nilly, screwing things up and doing whatever you want to do, you kind of have to build a clank-clank metal spaceship. Because if you want to go through portals like the sun, you have to be an impeccable warrior of consciousness. And when I say warrior, I do not mean like a person who battles with a sword or arrows or a gun or anything like that. I mean a person of true integrity. A soldier fights because they are paid or given orders to fight. A warrior fights because they have integrity and they are standing true to themselves amidst the, forces that are impinging upon them throughout the universe. It is necessary to be a peaceful warrior. You know, to cultivate and protect your energy when there are a lot of consciousness beings that would like to prevent you from cultivating your energy and from growing your consciousness. This is part of the balance of the universe. The understanding that just as there are baby sea turtles that are buried under the sand and they deeply, deeply yearn to break out of their eggs and get out of the sand and make their way across the beach to the freedom of the ocean, so too are there hungry seagulls or hungry predators who lie in wait and they're like, look, vulnerable baby sea turtles, let's pick them off and eat them before they can get to freedom. This is part of the push and pull of the universe. So I do not act unlovingly. I do not say, I don't accept this, it shouldn't exist. It can exist if it has to, but you, as a little baby sea turtle, get to protect your energy field as you make your way on your bid for freedom. That is what I mean when I refer to being a warrior. You do not allow these predatory entities, or, you know, the analogy of a seagull that wants to come down and eat you as a little baby sea turtle. Oh, no, it is necessary to protect and defend yourself. So lesson 18 is all about self-protection from lower vibrational service to self, negative thought entities. I put it at the end of my 20-part series, which, by the way, I will include a link in the links section on the left-hand side of the page. And the way that you sign up is to go to the link, read the course description, and follow the directions on how to register. The techniques presented in Lesson 18 can certainly help one to safeguard one's energy from being siphoned off by the creeps of the universe, the lower vibrational service to self negative thought entities that really can only feed off of other beings because they do not have their own innate connection to source. And again, it is an epic cosmic opera of understanding the dramatic backstory that led to their existence in that state. And also understanding that we are in the final denouement of this epic drama. We are in one of the last chapters of a movement where we are tying up loose ends, bringing the parenthetical reference of closing the parentheses of the first parentheses that might have been started millions of years ago. We are resolving a lot of the old tensions. So the entities that wish to prevent your consciousness from growing and expanding are part of the limiting factor of the universe, but they're also part of the old paradigm of limitations that we now are no longer suffering within. That's because of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. On to lasagna, folks. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a new interdimensional portal that I invented in 2001. It literally is like building a new roadway, a hyperspace bypass that you can use to bypass A, genetic blockages on a personal level, B, planetary blockages or blockages to being able to take either materials, energy, or consciousness from the surface of the planet to other places. Ooh, starting to get interesting, right? Because this is not news to you. Humanity has been quarantined on the face of the planet for like more than tens of thousands of years. For a very long time, humanity has been cut off from the big party. There's a big cosmic party going on out there. Yes, with many, many other intelligent creatures, races, species, and formats of intelligence. Beyond organic life, there's inorganic life, there's life that it might be difficult for you in your present format to recognize and categorize as life. You might recognize it as a ball of light or as a crystal. So now let's get into the sun as a conscious entity. It requires a great deal of your own personal sophistication, of your own yoga of perception. You need to stretch the boundaries of what you can think of and believe in order to reach the higher heights and see that the sun is a conscious entity who has given birth to the solar system. All of the planets are its children, and all of the beings that inhabit the planets of our solar system, and more than just Earth, is inhabited. Yes, it's very true. For example, Jupiter is inhabited. but it is not inhabited by fleshy beings like you and I. Dense beings like you and I cannot exist on what would be called, quote unquote, the surface of Jupiter, because Jupiter is a gas giant. It's a big, giant, gaseous body that doesn't really have what we would recognize as a quote unquote surface. However, there are absolutely beings that live on or within that ball of gas that are beings of less dense energy. They live in a less dense realm, and Jupiter itself is a consciousness. So just like you are comprised of trillions of individual cells, and you are the sum of your parts and beyond, so too is Jupiter comprised of individual gaseous beings that live, entwined with it, and it is itself a conscious entity. And Jupiter has saved Earth's butt several times from some impending cosmic debris. Jupiter is a very loving presence in the solar system. Gravitationally, Jupiter has a very large draw, and it is able to clear out some asteroids, comets, and, as I said, like stellar debris, prevent it from reaching the inner planets. So that happened not too many years ago with comet Shoemaker-Levy, which was rather spectacularly exploded into Jupiter when it went into Jupiter. Going a bit afield here, but I'm giving you the idea that the solar system is a family of consciousnesses. So Earth is Gaia. Gaia is, what we would call a female presence, and has all of her own personality characteristics, hopes, dreams, desires, and we are tiny cells that live within her, okay? Mars is a dead planet. Mars died. Sad thing happened. I talk all about it in Lesson 18 for Full Spectrum Humans. Same thing with Venus. When I say a dead planet, Mars does not have a magnetic field. Living planets have a magnetic field. The magnetic field is analogous to the chakras. When a human being dies, they still have a physical corporeal form that is left behind that can be autopsied, and you can point to it and poke it with a stick, and science says that exists. However, when you die, your energy field ceases to exist. For example, like your heart is no longer beating, you no longer have a cardiac energy field, you also no longer have the electric waves that are picked up, that come off of one's brain, from like an EEG, an electroencephalogram. Those waves are no longer being emitted either. And nor are the chakras or the spinning energy centers of the non-physical body active anymore. The chakras are analogous to a magnetic field that is formed as a byproduct of consciousness being intertwined with matter. So the fact that Mars as a planet lacks a magnetic field shows that we are looking at what is a dead corpse of a planet. It once had a magnetic field, once had all sorts of life and a biosphere, and the events that led to its demise are a sad story that I go over in Lesson 18, and that has everything to do with what the heck happened to humans and why it is necessary to climb out of this deep pit or depths of consciousness into which humanity has fallen, been cast, or been thrown, or, like, hey, that guy wasn't pushed, didn't fall accidentally, he was pushed. You kind of know what I'm talking about, that we sense foul play was afoot, even if we do not have the exact details of what's going on. Brief pause. When you enter into the sun, take a sun bath and wash away everything that is not the true, eternal part of you. What am I talking about? Aurora, you cannot enter the sun. It would burn you to a cinder. Clearly, I am not speaking about transporting one's physical body to what would be called the physical surface of the sun. Not only is that impractical, you're right. Your body would change state. It would go directly from solid to gas to plasma, and you would no longer have a physical corporeal form. I am talking about sending your consciousness to the sun through what would be called a wormhole, or a pinching together of what would be seemingly distant places, and a cleansing of your consciousness of any elements that are not in perfect alignment with the emanations of the sun. So the sun, remember, I don't speak about geometry. Geometry is a word that comes from geo, meaning earth, and measure. It means to measure the earth. It's a very anthropocentric word and a very earth-centric word, and we are here doing yoga of perception and preparing to meet higher culture. We need to come up with a word that is broader. So we're talking here about this vibratory language. The sun is structured according to this higher vibratory language. All of the particles and emanations that are coming from the sun are formed into these perfect patterns. If you check out some of my artwork, those are the patterns that they are formed into. When your chakras are in a state of perfect health, your chakras mimic those patterns. The patterns that the sun is creating with its light emanations are mirrored in a fractal microcosmic version in your own body system. So it's a question of the sun being like the dance teacher at the head of the class, showing you how to dance. These are the dance steps, class. And then each one of us as emanations of the sun with our own tiny little fragmented light bodies doing what the teacher at the head of the class says to do. When you do that, it literally leads to, I would say, total vitality. It leads to everlasting consciousness. And it also causes the death of the temporal aspects of ego. So if you identify with the temporal self, the aspects of self that arise only due to one's submergence in the flow of time, they're not eternal aspects of self. So example, I wear this suit of clothes here in this time and place. I wear it because it fits my body here, and it fits the climate here, and it fits what the socio-cultural concept of a nice outfit is. And I'm willing to change my outfit whenever is necessary, dependent upon changing climates, changing cultures, or changing the size or shape of my physical body. The temporal ego should be analogous to an outfit, a suit of clothes, or a narrative identity that we wear for a certain amount of time that is used for its efficacy, but that is not clinged to, or that one does not fully invest oneself in on an eternal level. Because there are some things that are not eternal. Some emotions that are fleeting, like a passing cloud across the sun, they are not eternal. And there are some emotions that arise as a direct result of the distortions of being submerged in time. And the eternal self literally doesn't feel those emotions because it perceives reality at a vastly different level. So a lot of the anger that people feel is a direct result of their limited perspective. When you expand your perspective, you don't feel angry because you see why things happened. You see the connectivity of events, that events were not random, that there was causality, that it was a beautiful tapestry that was woven together, and that it all makes sense in a very satisfying way. And I feel that a lot of anger and rejection that people have is rejection of what appears to be falsehood or things that aren't true. Like, that's not true. I don't believe that. I'm angry at you. I don't like you. I don't believe that. And when one achieves the expanded or exalted perspective, it's not necessary to feel those feelings of anger anymore because you see the connectivity, the necessity, the beauty, the elegance of the entire system. So when I talk about taking a sun bath, I'm talking about sending one's non-physical consciousness to the sun to be realigned and to let go of or jettison all of the things that are not serving, that actually cause disease, that actually cause a person to be out of balance and out of alignment, and that reduce vitality. So this is, again, a practice that one must work up to, just like sun gazing. And if it requires some scientific integument for you to understand this, I'll bring up an article that was recently written by NASA that is about the place where Earth's magnetic field and the sun's magnetic field connect and interact. It causes these very interesting magnetic overlappings or wormholes or portals, some of which are close to the surface of Earth, some of which are, hundreds of miles off into space. However, it is possible to utilize those as roads or pathways for your consciousness, for your non-physical energy, to go directly to the sun. Okay, one brief pause. I have to do my little save here. I bring this up because this goes to the topic of the beings that you wish to interact with. I've already described the beings that are unloving users of really a relatively low level of clank metal technology in order to fly from here to there, because they are not able or willing to submerge themselves in the cleansing field of the sun. If those service to self lower vibrational entities submerged their consciousness in the sun, it would wash away all of those petty, egoistic desires, the desires to control others, hatred, self-hatred, all of these things that are huge motivators to those beings as a species and as believers in a particular belief system. It's like saying they identify with the dirt that has encrusted their being, and they certainly do not want to jump into a nice bath and wash away all of that dirt. They're like, no, my precious dirt, I don't want to lose that. Contrast that with beings who are made of pure love. If you are made of pure love, unconditional love, it's a tone like, oh, a tone. You are not afraid of yourself washing away. It's like, I'm made of water. You can't wash water away. Water is touching water. That's all that you're touching. So for a being that's made of unconditional love, to submerge them in the energy field of the sun is like submerging love into love. Beings at that level can use the sun as a type of doorway. All stars are portals. They are doorways of consciousness. We each have a tiny micro sun within us. It resides at the top of the spine. You have like a little bone that is shaped kind of like a pivot that your skull and brain apparatus rest upon. Traditional Jewish people call that the Lud bone. It is shaped like a letter out of the Hebrew alphabet, the Lud. And it, interestingly enough, according to their myths and culture, is the part of the body that will be used on the day of resurrection to reconstitute or resurrect everyone. That's why people who have that set of beliefs do not believe in cremation. They want to preserve that little bone so that they can be resurrected when the day comes. I bring it up because that portion of one's anatomy is, number one, the area of coincidence of the brow or indigo chakra and the crown or violet chakra. And it is also where the spark of divine consciousness resides within the physical human form. It's an incredibly special place on the body, incredibly special portion of the anatomy, and it is very close to where the pineal gland resides. So when I spoke not too many minutes ago about the idea that a scientist can autopsy your body and see evidence of your physical structures, but not evidence of your non-physical structures, because, of course, your non-physical structures left and ceased to exist when your consciousness left your physical structures. But the physical structure of the pineal gland remains. The pineal gland is intertwined with and coincides with the indigo or brow chakra, but they are not exactly the same thing. One is a physical gland and one is a light body aperture. The beings who use the sun as portals for traveling consciousness are made of pure light. We understand that we are made of light, but we are made of light that has the privilege of going slower than the speed of light. The speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. We are made of matter. Matter is not traveling that fast. It's slowed down. And I've spoken about this also, cause and effect in the universe, that because this light has been slowed down into matter, there is also a place where the light has not traveled to yet, and that is the shadow or the darkness, or the place where there is not yet light. And spoken about how when, as an artist, when you draw a picture of something, what lends realism is or are shadows, that it's necessary to use shadows and shading, lack of light, to show, render volume, give a sense of three-dimensionality. All of this is about duality and the light versus dark paradigm that we have been experiencing simply by being submerged in this level of density. We are heading into a realm where we will no longer have that contrast, that level of duality, where it will no longer be the world of light versus the world of shadow. It's actually going to be a much more interesting realm because we will have a complete spectrum to work with, not just black or white, but many gradations within which to work. We're moving beyond this idea of duality or good versus evil, and we are understanding things on an empirical, non-judgmental, abstract level, not distorting it through the anthropomorphic filter as it has been distorted so often in the past. And that's what I talk about, contrasting the exalted perspective of abstract empirical energy, like particle A interacted with particle B, and here's the result. Contrasting that with the experience of, human A shot human B with a gun, and here's the result. Boy, that has a very different feeling. So we begin to understand the difference as we begin to cleanse our anthropomorphic filter. And you cleanse the anthropomorphic filter by taking a sun bath. Taking a sun bath washes away those elements of personality that are not eternal and that are mainly based in what it feels like to be submerged in time, in this level of density, in this particular bio-bodysuit. So there are incredibly beautiful, sophisticated, high-level, intelligent star beings that travel as light, pure light, from star system to star system, using the network of intelligent light that emanates from a star. So when we accrete light, and to accrete means to gather together, in the same way that a nebula accretes gases and dust clouds and eventually begins to coalesce into a star. Our light body accretes light, not only through eating physical matter, which I have used the analogy is very much like the inefficient steam engine, burning coal, chugging away, puffing lots of carbon into the air, and making as a byproduct tons of infrared heat. That is the analogy of eating physical food. When you begin to eat non-physical food, which is direct sunlight or consciousness, pure consciousness, it is a much cleaner burning engine. You don't have the same byproducts, there is a much higher output, and the engine runs much more efficiently. That is necessary for accreting light. So one of the keys is developing the technique for sun gazing, for ingesting light at that level, so that basically you have enough energetic currency or quote-unquote money in your energetic bank account to be able to perform these feats. Yes, it is an energetic or psychic feat to be able to go to the sun and take a sun bath. And being able to do so washes away the things that are not eternal. And when you emerge as your true self. The beings that use the sun as their starship or vessel for transferring consciousness emerge from the sun as beautiful, loving beings of true consciousness, not with petty desires or evil agendas or anything like that. So this radio hour, my ostensible agenda is always preparing Earth surface humans for galactic contact. And it is really necessary for you to have your own innate GPS or God positioning system, your own perception, your own divine spark of God that you use in order to determine, quote unquote, what is true and what is valuable. And there will be many options that are being offered to everyone of what you wish to participate in, what reality you wish to participate in, what power structure you wish to participate in. So, for example, let's say that you've been heavily programmed by Catholicism and you are expecting and embracing a literal bearded male figure to literally, ride out of the sky on a white horse, zapping evildoers and literally levitating the worthy chosen few, off of the burning surface of Earth, which is flowing with lava. Like, if that is your imagined future, there will be futures that will satisfy people that have that need. This is all about the universe being an incredibly benevolent, loving chef, cooking exactly for you what you need. The chef is cooking for you in the kitchen. Some people need that program to run. Some people need to see that. Some people need that for their own personal fulfillment. However, the idea is that there are many different options that are being offered, or that really whatever is in your imagination or is in your belief system is what you will be contributing to in the creation of reality. Let's contrast now with a person who might be more open to, first of all, recognizing intelligence that doesn't look like a humanoid form, and also recognizing the signature of unconditional love. In being selective about which entities one interacts with, I would say the first thing is go for love. Make certain that anyone that you interact with has that loving vibration, both corporeal or non-corporeal. Like in your daily life, mundane life on Earth, why would you wish to surround yourself with or speak with, quote-unquote, friends who don't speak to you lovingly, who don't appreciate you, or who wish for you to change on a basic level before they will accept you in, on some way? None of that is unconditional love. And I, in my daily life, do not surround myself or interact with or have relationships with corporeal beings that treat me in an unloving way. If you're not accepting of me, then I really do not have a desire to interact with you. And I'm laughing a little bit because, when I advertise for my class, I'm very overt. I am not in the closet. When I first came to Earth in 2001, I was in the closet. I didn't go around, at one point I did, but I learned eventually that it is not socially acceptable to just declare oneself to be an extraterrestrial, a walk-in, being from another world, that speaking that overtly, to some people, they found it challenging or off-putting, or it just was not something that they could harmoniously weave into their belief system. And at this point, more than 10 years later, this is 13 years later, I am so unconcerned with the lack of acceptance of people either who do not believe or accept that I am a walk-in, do not believe or accept that my information, the source of my information, is not, mundane and earthly, and who do not appreciate either the energy that I have to share or the specific emanations like radio programs, videos, or artwork that I have to share. I am so very unconcerned by that because I recognize that there's a lot, the people that are here in majority are have a very twisted, distorted perception, and that it is difficult to perceive clearly through this thick lens of distortion. So I'd also like to speak a little bit about my role here as a flying rainbow lasagna. The flying rainbow lasagna is a bridge, like I said before, quoting The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a hyperspace bypass, a way of getting around blockages, the genetic blockages, consciousness blockages, belief system blockages that have prevented humanity from being able to A, connect with other galactic citizens, like on a mind-to-mind level, and also B, travel to other places. You've been cut off from connectivity and also stuck here, and this has been because you're quarantined, and this has been because of the degradation of human consciousness, and basically the rest of the universe doesn't want to catch what you've got. And when I say catch what you've got, didn't I just say that humanity has a language that is like a virus? But it's really not just the language. It's really a lot of the distortions and fear that I want to say is a result of the language. Let's say fear is one of the major symptoms of this negativity and distortion, that it is not appropriate to spread out to the rest of the universe. You're emanators of consciousness. Your mind is literally a paintbrush that is painting reality. And if the mind is degraded or if it is infected with fear, then the mind will paint fearful pictures. And this is what most people's dreams are like. This is what most people's daily waking reality is like. This is what a lot of quote-unquote entertainment like Hollywood and TV are like. And this is also why I eschew what most people think is entertaining around here. I watch very few TV shows. I watch very few movies. I do not find stories about violence to be fun or entertaining. I don't watch anything from the corpse's point of view. Even silly shows like Monk, where there has to be a murder for Monk to exist. It's like all of these things. It is spreading more of this, what I would call propaganda, or just really spreading the negativity, the undesirable personality aspects of humanity that really should be mitigated and quelled and weeded out of the garden of your mind. So I definitely don't expose myself to those things, and I choose not to send them out. I choose to send out thoughts that are about living together harmoniously and solutions and cooperation and all the things that I speak about here on this radio program. And the reason for that is that I take responsibility for what I emanate, and I understand that I am a powerful emanator. So everyone here is emanating. Everyone here is sending out thoughts and ideas and vibrations. Your genes are dancing all the time. Your genes are like vibrating guitar strings or like vibrating violin strings. They're always making a tone. However, not everybody is healthy. Not everybody is a musician whose instrument is well tuned. Some people are creating a tone that is not desirable. Either their mentality is degraded, their experience of life is uncomfortable, or their body is physically diseased in a state of unease. I exist here as the first flying rainbow lasagna to come to this planet in order to give people the opportunity to think for themselves. It's like when you're singing together in a chorus or a choir, no one really knows, like, where is the A note? Where is A? And all of a sudden someone comes into the choir and says, A is this. Oh! And then everyone else can calibrate and you can think, okay, that's A. I can think clearly now. There has been so much static on the line in terms of human consciousness. It has been difficult for people to even be able to think clearly. The flying rainbow lasagna tone is like, you know, those noise canceling headphones that you can buy and wear like on an airplane so that it sounds quiet and doesn't bother your sleep. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like noise cancellation headphones for the static of the universe. And the static is not from the universe, it's from evil alien overlords, okay? The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is like the antidote to that constant sense of being mentally impinged upon, constantly being distracted. Your consciousness, instead of being coherent waves of light like a laser, being broken up into all sorts of light waves that go hither, thither, and yon and all bump into each other and don't really make sense. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna gives each person the opportunity to think clearly and to think for themselves. I do not impose my belief system upon you or upon anyone, because that is not loving. That is not the active behavior of a loving being, especially not one who travels through stars and has the sun, bathes in the sun on a regular basis. I don't want to control everyone else's behavior. I want to give you a chance to rise to your true potential and to fulfill, to be the truest version of what you can be, and to be your eternal self. And this is what real high-class star travelers believe, and that is the way I have been treated, and that I would say to you, seek out those consciousnesses. First of all, those consciousnesses are present right now, even if they are not physically present, because if you were physically in the presence of an incredibly high vibration creature, it might cause you to change state immediately, to go directly from solid matter to a gas and plasma, like being incinerated. They wouldn't want to do that to you. Truly loving beings would not want to incinerate you with the high vibration quality of their presence. So they are actually holding themselves in abeyance. And they are speaking through intermediaries. You want to speak to some good intermediaries? Talk to some clouds. Talk to some trees. The earth is also an excellent intermediary, and you can also use grass as an intermediary. And I'm referring to the plant kingdom, that grass and trees, these are incredibly unconditionally loving beings. If you can tune in to that vibrant greenery that the plant kingdom embodies as a representative of the greenness of unconditional love, you can understand that these beings of pure unconditional love that are outside of Earth's orbit but still in the solar system are using trees and grass, clouds, the plant kingdom, and the planet herself in order to speak through intermediaries, to speak to you so that the direct information does not overwhelm your system. We will continue to prepare for contact with higher dimensional, less dense beings next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please check out flyingrainbowlasagna.com and click on online course for all of the descriptors about the upcoming semester. Thank you so very much, and Happy New Year.